bunch of people that are watching online. And today, I think, is a really valuable topic that we're going to be discussing, because nearly every business is facing the challenge of recruiting good talent and retaining that talent. It's really hard, and depending on what business you've been in. Matt's business, he has a lot of long-term employees who have been there a long time, but I'm sure you're probably wanting to recruit additional talent to join your team.
Yeah, we've had a lot of good luck recruiting, so it's been kind of nice to have.
You can help participate in the discussion. But I thought, what a good opportunity. And we've had here at our company, Eva heads up our recruiting efforts. And in the last, the last 12 months, how many people would you say you've hired between the 3 different companies that you recruit for?
Oh, a high number.
Probably 50?
I would say more in the 30.
30.
I mean, most mid-level.
5 of those were C-suite positions.
Yeah.
So Eva did the recruiting has done recruiting for us here at OEC, for Cordova Coolers, which is a company that my brother owns, and for Till, which is a short-term loan company. And she's hired general managers, sales directors, CFOs, project managers, supply chain, factory, marketing, chief marketing officers. So like really significant, key, important positions in companies. And today she's going to share a little bit of kind of like how she's doing that, because very little of it is putting an ad out on Indeed. We have an ad out on Indeed today, but typically she's recruited the bulk of those people without putting out ads. And I thought it would be really insightful for her to be able to share, kind of like, because everyone I talk to wants to know how you're doing that. How are you hiring like really good talent today? So I thought we'd start with that. Eva has been with us for 3 years. So she got here right before me. I've been here 2.5 years, and has made a wonderful impact. We just discovered her talent for recruiting talent in the last year. So she's just kind of getting started in this capacity. Our guest speaker that is going to be presenting along with Eva, her name is Jennifer. She's been in an HR capacity for, what would you say, 30 years?
Yes. Yeah.
She's an industry veteran. She was the president of the HRATV, which is the Human Resources of Treasure Valley, huge user group with hundreds of users. She's a consultant and trainer now, and just has a wealth of knowledge and connections. And she was going to be, or will be, addressing more of the retaining your talent. Are we on track so far? I know you guys, I'm just doing the intro, and then I kind of turn the time over, and then Eva and Jennifer will take over, and I'll kind of be quiet. But anything else before we get started?
I think that Jen and I are just going to, she does everything from coaching to consulting for large companies and individuals, to help them bring in talent, to help them make large decisions, company-wide. So she is an absolute expert. I mean, she's seen it all, and definitely valuable in a time like this, where we're experiencing such a fluctuation in the market, and I mean the influx of lots of people wanting to work, and then trying to weed through them and find the talent that you're looking for. So,
well, before we get started officially, I just wanted to let the people online know that if you're having any trouble hearing or anything, go ahead and use that Q&A box. Also, if you want to take part in this conversation or you have a question, just put in that Q&A box and I will ask it for you to our speakers. So other than that, we can get going, Eva.
So as Scott said, I am leading up the recruiting efforts for multiple different companies, all of which have, different objectives, different long-term goals. And how I keep that steady flow of candidates in has been tricky and kind of ever changing as we post-pandemic, as we go through all these changes. And one of the most important things is building my network with the passive candidates, reaching out to those people, developing those connections, and making, having those conversations. So many every day that, just pick up the phone, always answer those calls, because those are the people that can make a difference in your business. Getting yourself out there and learning about, hey, what's that new talent pool coming into town? Or if you're trying to pull somebody in from, out of your network, the same thing. There's always connections, and there's always ways to find a lot about whoever you're looking into.
Could I say, I forgot to mention, this is open to discussion and questions at any point. So as you have questions, and those of you that are online, please send your questions in so we can help focus what Eva talks about. I know I have a question. You said building your network. How do you build your network? Let's say you have a position that you're supposed to be hiring for. How do you go about building your network for that position?
Well, first thing that I do, and it really depends on the actual position, whether it be a high-level position or entry level, but let's just say it's more of a high-level role. First thing is I am all over LinkedIn, looking at people's profiles, and as you start looking through those profiles and comparing the job description that you're looking for with those key characteristics, you start to even uncover more that may be valuable for you to look through, and just seeing who you're already connected with that may have some of those valuable that valuable background that you're looking for. So that's where I start. And then I just start reaching out to candidates and seeing if they would possibly be interested in talking to me. And surprisingly, they are. They always are. And it's always, I find myself saying the same thing over and over again. Well, you just never know when it's right, because it's that one call that it just turns out that they are interested in and looking elsewhere as well. And it just works. And it's surprising how many people are wanting to take those calls and wanting to tell you about what they can bring to your company. So it's always surprising how engaged those individuals are, because you would think you would get most people not wanting to, passing. And that's not true. Most people are wanting to have those conversations. So it really goes in line with what everybody's saying is happening in the market. And, more than half of people right now, leaders specifically, are looking for a change, which is scary, but exciting when you're trying to scout out the talent.
So Eve, a couple technical questions. So what do you need to be able to, let's just say, stalk people on LinkedIn? Do you have a special, like a LinkedIn account that you use for that?
So you pay an annual fee, which is far less than you would be paying Indeed or any job board.
This is for LinkedIn Recruiter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's significantly less, just to give you access to actually email individuals and be able to see their recruiting profiles, because lots of people will indicate that they are looking or interested as well in their recruiting profile. So it gives you more access to not only see what the market here is doing, but all the markets there, and always look for your competitors and see who in their business is maybe possibly looking as well.
So question for the room, is anyone here else using LinkedIn Recruiter?
Not Recruiter, but just LinkedIn.
Just
LinkedIn.
Searches?
LinkedIn Premium, I think there's a, yeah.
Yeah. So what are you just able to see? Are you able to email them without
Can't email them.
Oh, okay.
But it allows me like unlimited searches, whereas I think the basic one, they cap it after a certain, you get so many. I've noticed that if I search too much in 1 month, they're like, that's it, you're done.
I've gotten that too. So I can upgrade. It's on heavy months, they're like, oh, wow, you emailed too many people, upgrade for another couple thousand. I'm like, oh, wait, I'll find another way to email. I'll find another way to find their email address or whatnot.
Do you recall how much that recruiter license was?
I think it's honestly like $1,200, which is insanely less than what we were paying for a service that really wasn't bringing any value to our business.
Yeah, we paid multiple thousands
3,600
to Indeed or stuff like it, where you just constantly are feeding them your money.
I mean, and I'm a big believer is use your tool to the fullest. Otherwise, obviously, you're never going to get the most out of it. But for me specifically, and for our businesses and for what I'm doing right now, that is working. Another thing that is extremely important given entry level and mid-level individuals coming into the market is just having that ad continuously running on Indeed is what I use, and various other boards, whatever, they're pretty much the same, I find, but just having those and, having those ads continuously running because we're always looking for certain workers. Cordova, as he mentioned, I work with Jason at Cordova recruiting individuals there, and that business is growing. So instead of having to start from nothing, I'm starting with an already engaged group of people that I can reach out to and bring in and, for interviews right away rather than starting the process from zero. So it's important to, just understand the individual company, their growth goals, their strategy, and be really engaged with that because, when I get that call of like, we're starting a night shift and that means we need 35 more workers and you're one person. So, just really understanding how, you can manage that load because, people are ramping up. We have two businesses that are growing rapidly. And so, especially with the competition out there, you can never have a shortage of candidates to be engaged with.
So when you're recruiting and you're talking to people who are, and let's face it, the best talent is typically employed already, right? The best talent floating around out there is already employed. When you're approaching talent that is currently employed, how do you go about, like, what does your first contact look like? Let's say you're someone you're recruiting in from maybe outside of the Valley or in the Valley, I don't know, what does that look like?
Well, first thing is just to, just a casual, hey, do you have a minute to talk to me about an opportunity? Usually, and almost all the time I do include a little bit of the details, about the job, the high, very high level, just getting them interested in having that conversation. And like I said, most are very interested in having those conversations. They know that you're looking at them and, I always say, like, I only know what's on your profile, so that's what I'm basing this conversation of. But just really, once you get on the phone with them, they're eager to tell you about what they can bring. And then the most important thing, is selling your company and understanding your company's vision, because a lot of times the job description that you may be recruiting for will be ever changing because you're meeting people that are adding even value to adding like different parts where that could be in that job description that could change the dynamics a little bit, which is another very interesting thing and important reason why, having all of those conversations are important, because everything is changing all the time and it's changing faster than ever right now. And it's important to pay attention to those things that people say because they are of value. I know that we've certainly made changes to what we were looking for as that process happens. And it's important that we can do that.
Can you share a little bit? Oh, sorry, you go ahead. And
yeah, thanks. I have someone from online. I have a comment first and then a question. So a comment from Rihanna is, LinkedIn recruiter subscriptions can be $16,000 a year for only 3 postings. LinkedIn Premium is cheaper, allowing searches and allowing you to reach out to connect or advertise via messaging? And then the question we have is, have you found other ways to recruit people during the pandemic without in-person events beyond what you've already mentioned?
So was it beyond in person?
Yes.
Yeah, so the other way that I've been successful in doing that is really reaching out to those key individuals that we have brought into our organization and saying, hey, I need your network of people. I need you to get people engaged as well. Because there's nothing better than having the individuals at your company, you know, wanting people to come in as well. That
Share a little bit
means
about
a lot.
how we've shared a little bit about the success that we see through that.
I mean, we have father-son teams, we have father-daughter teams here. We have a lot of people that take pride in bringing people in here, and I can tell you, it makes for a great culture. I mean, I love doing business this way. We have a great connection and a great team, and when somebody recommends somebody, you know you're going to get the best talent, because nobody wants to bring somebody in that isn't, from what they see, you know, a stellar performer. So I've had great success with it, and we absolutely, it's not, you know, half of our new hires by any means, but definitely 10 to 20%.
I think one thing that was really valuable for us is gauging how much our employees like where they work when they refer people to jobs that we have. So typically Eva will let our own employees know what jobs come up and are available. And that doesn't cost anything to let our own team know. And then we pay them too. We have a bonus that we pay. We increased it at some point. I can't remember when. It used to be 300. Now
it was 250,
250,
and now it's 500. But yeah, it stayed there for a while. And of course, they love those, you know, the extra money. But the other cool thing too is we've had people that have you know, left here for whatever reason on great terms, and now are at Cordova working, or you know, vice versa. So just, you know, makes me think of the importance of really staying in a good place with, you know, all of those people, the current employees, the past employees, you know, the network that you have, because it does come in handy. And it's fun when you start seeing that being so beneficial, when you've built it to that point where you have somebody to reach out to.
Any questions so far from anyone of what we've talked about?
Yeah, so finding talent, kind of filling the top of your candidate pipeline. I've heard that Idaho has the lowest unemployment in the country right now. I don't know if that's true, don't quote me, but can you talk a little bit about what are those secondary, third conversations that you have with people, and are you getting into like competitive conversations where they're also evaluating other opportunities, or what does that look like?
So it is always a negotiation, I'll tell you that. I have never had somebody at a C-level position accept. I would expect at their level it is a negotiation, honestly. And those conversations are being had, and it's interesting because with those level, they're not in the way that the money's there, generally speaking. They're talking to you about, well, you know, I can just take unlimited PTO, or, you know, my benefits are paid for me, or, you know, do you have a wellness center at your company, or who does your company donate to? Things like that are the questions that they ask, and that's what they're making their decision on. Those are those things that are new to me, and you know, that I read about every single day, because those are the decisions. That's what's making their decisions. It's not the money. We know we have to be competitive right now. It's somewhat of a waste of time if you aren't able to, you know, to be competitive, because wages are skyrocketing right now. It's really, what else can you do? What else can you provide that's going to stand out? You know, I've heard so many things. One example is it was a requirement to put on your calendar on a weekly basis something for you and your family specifically that could be viewed like taking my daughter to the park or this or whatever. And it was like a requirement to show that you're taking time for your family on work time. Or, you know, there's just a whole breadth of like new things going on out there where we have to figure out how we can make it work for our company and still stand out, because we don't have an unlimited amount of money to throw at it. But we certainly don't want to be, you know, not recognized because of the lack of, you know, those extra perks that are showing up all over the place.
Could you talk a little bit about the process that we use? And I think this is similar to what a lot of other organizations use, but the process we go through where it's more than just one interview. But could you share a little bit about how, you know, kind of some of the success we've had through what our recruiting process is?
Well, we have some unique things that really seem to be working. For example, when I engage with somebody and I'm interested in them, Scott will just pick up the phone and call them without any warning. And at first I was like, Scott, these are people that are working, you know, they didn't reach out to me, I reached out to them. I'm not sure if that's great, or I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I love it. I love it because he catches them off guard, and we want to know who these people are. It really helps you get to know who these people really are, besides the standard, okay, well, I'm going to give you a call and we're going to talk about the job. You know, he's just going to give him a call and just say, hey, you know, I mean, what's some of the things that you say when you call unexpectedly? It's just
I'm trying to get to the
casual.
why. So, hey, I understand, you know, you were talking with Eva and we're interested in the position. It seems like you're already working somewhere. Why would you be interested in talking to us? So trying to figure out the why behind why they're talking, or where I'll try and push them to say, no, maybe this position isn't for you. Because we're really, really restrictive. I'm sorry, we're really protective of who we let in. So I'll try and kick them out a little bit and push back and say, now I hear they make a lot of money in California. We can't pay as high of salaries here, or Seattle or wherever. Should we continue talking? And have them justify. I like to hear them explain to me why they're interested. So that's one. So oftentimes we'll jump on, either we'll have a call, I'll have a call.
And, you know, then, you know, what I think is extremely important is having those interviews with the people in your company. Huge. You know, first of all, engaging them and help, you know, your current employees, and helping them feel like they are part of that process, because we certainly want them to be part of that process. I mean, overall, that's going to help us down the road with retention and various other things, but making sure that your managers and leaders are interviewing these candidates, and so you can you know, sit down with them and say, do they have a spot in this organization? Can they bring in value? You know, what hurdles are you seeing? Or, you know, because it's interesting, everybody sees something different, and those are, you know, conversations that are invaluable.
Typically when we like somebody, we'll have them come in for a minimum of about 3 interviews, and those are with different people every time. And one of those has to be off-site. And this is something we learned from Dave. What's that Dave guy, the redneck on the radio that does financial consulting?
Ramsey?
Dave Ramsey. He came to Boise once and did an entre leadership or something training, and that's how he does it at his company. They do 6 interviews, and one of those is it's mandatory offsite, and it's mandatory with their spouse. So a lot of times, if this is C-suite, we'll typically get their significant other. We often try and get them to the lunch as well, so we can kind of like see what they think, because we have to get their buy-in as well.
Do you top grade at all? like do an intensive 3-hour conversation with the candidate going through their life history and how they made decisions throughout their career, or is it just like shorter interviews?
So mine is absolutely, the conversations are long and exciting for both parties generally. So I do find out a lot of that information I've
I
seen
think those are
Scott.
important. We'll do that too. And I know Elon Musk does that. If there's a clip where Elon Musk shares how he finds his top talent, and he asks them, he finds out about their life and what are the challenges they've had to overcome in their life in order to, make achievements. Yeah.
There's a lot you can learn about a person from just those conversations, not them telling you, but just reading between, learning about
You
them.
hit on something, Scott, just understanding the why, like how do they evaluate a decision in prior circumstances helps inform like what you can predict they're going to do in the future. So I'm kind of curious for both of you, as you're uncovering like people's motives for they're fully employed but are looking to possibly jump, have you noticed any like commonalities or trends that you're hearing from these candidates?
I know one that I'll share. I know that we brought in 3 of our recent hires. We had one come in from Washington, D.C., one come in from Philadelphia, and one come in from L.A. And there was similar with all 3 of those in that they were looking for a change from the large metro. They wanted to live somewhere different. So that was one commonality of. And I push back. I say, man, it's really awesome to live in Philadelphia. How cool would that be? Why in the world would you ever want to come to Boise? And I'll try and make it sound like, why would you want to come to Boise? And then they tell me, oh, we love Boise. We came through with my sister. And they go on and on about how amazing Boise is, and they sell themselves. I found that so amazing when I try and push away and say, maybe this isn't for you. They're like, no, actually that is.
Yeah, and you want them to do that because at the end of the day,
Yes.
making a bad decision and uprooting somebody's life here and for it to not work out is extremely costly on our part for us and not for the candidate as well. So those decisions, you definitely want to make sure when you're signing on that line that, you've thought it through.
So let's wrap up. Sorry.
Sorry, I have one more question from online. If you had an entry-level position where candidates for that role might not be on LinkedIn, what other sources have you utilized to find them?
So I also am able to search through people that are looking for work on Indeed, and that is $100 a month. You can turn it on and off at any time, and you're able to, you get really creative because, those keywords matter, and you can pull people that you're interested in and reach out to them that way as well. And I found that as a great way for those entry to mid-level job positions is doing it, resume searching and just seeing who's out there looking.
We also have found more than one individual for our construction installers. Let's just say that. I don't want to say non-skilled because they're absolutely skilled. They're skilled in the
extremely
trades.
hard to find.
But we have had temps where we found people through the temp agencies and then we hire them. We're able to kind of try them before we buy them. So we have had that.
The majority I have found, because in our business, it's a specific, niche in the industry. It's, there's not a lot of people that have that experience. And I've had great luck off just reaching out from people I see on Indeed. I've had great luck with that. And great luck with word of mouth and referrals, people that actually work here, just finding those networks of construction workers. That's a hard one. It took me a long time to build up our installer team because they are absolutely in need right now, and most of them are staying right where they're at because they're making an incredible amount of money.
Yeah.
So
let's wrap up. Any other questions on recruiting? And then we'll jump into retainment. It looks like we don't know where Jennifer is, so we'll jump into retaining.
I do have a question. Kind of goes across both, but as far as like salespeople go, how do you structure their salary versus commissions, and do you do a draw? And if they wear multiple hats where it's not strictly sales, do you pay them any differently?
So when we're hiring a salesperson, generally, my first question is, well, what type of compensation package looks fair to you? And hearing what they're wanting, because we have many different structures available here, but generally speaking, especially for salespeople, they know what works for them. Scott, can you chime in a little bit about a little more detail? Because actually we are looking for salespeople right now. And so we are getting close to those conversations at this moment. What are you seeing?
So we have kind of our company, of course, I mean, there's some different models you can use. And just even within our company, we have some that are commission only. We have some that are base plus commission. We have some that are base plus bonus. And so we have a lot of different things that we've worked out. But I think what Eva said is, what kind of compensation, how do you like to be compensated, is I think a really good question. I haven't had good luck mixing salespeople doing other tasks, like, hey, we'll hire an admin assistant and she'll sell too when she's not doing this job. Now, Eva's kind of a unicorn in this, because Eva used to be my admin assistant, and she took it on herself to go start getting clients. It was amazing. I've never had anyone else. So that's kind of rare. But I usually, it's hard to kind of do one job and then turn that off and say, okay, now I'm going to do sales.
Well, because I mean, if you're in sales, I hope I'm not seeing you at the office often, because that means you're out selling and doing what you're supposed to be doing. But those type of tasks require you to be in the office. So it is quite conflicting.
But I'm happy to share offline kind of how at least we've structured our, and I think we have some really good plans.
Yeah, in our arrangement, you can't sell year round. You can only sell during certain spurts.
So people are wanting that base, that, and we have.
And we got to keep them busy in between.
Yeah.
It's divided. Some people really like that. And then some people are like, heck no, I can make way more commission only. And they want to do it that way. But those, I agree with you, are somewhat well established and can tolerate those times where maybe not as busy as others.
Any other questions on recruiting? And everybody that's here and everybody that's remote, feel free to reach out to Eva with questions. I'll offer you up because I'm sure Eva would be happy to share, but feel free to reach out with specific questions of, hey, how do you use this, or have you used this service before? Because we've done a ton of testing over the last couple of years. We've used virtually every service that exists. And it's really just in the last 12 months where I feel like we have really, and Eva has done this, has really brought in key talent. And that's so valuable to helping take your organization to the next level.
Before we make the switch, I just wanted to hear, you had said you had been hiring off LinkedIn. I was just wanting to know your
Yeah, I guess from us, for me, our number one recruiting tool is retention. We've been voted top 10 places to work in Idaho over the last 2 years.
Isn't it interesting to hear when people are saying, well, and I see you're in the top 10 best places to work?
Matt, will you introduce yourself and your company?
Matt Hupfield, Cole Architects. But LinkedIn for me, I started using LinkedIn when it first came out. I got over 10,000 connections on LinkedIn, so I don't pay for it anymore. I kind of have unlimited emails. I get to kind of do what I want.
Nice.
Which is interesting. I didn't realize that, but I started hearing people talk about how they have to pay for it. I'm like, oh, I have that free. But anyways,
You're
But
not
that, for me, LinkedIn is by far, I think the combination of retention and having good benefits. You know, we've gone to an unlimited PTO policy. We've done a lot of those things already.
Yeah,
Um,
staying ahead of it.
Yeah, but our industry is a little bit different because it's all professionals. And so they have a higher expectation of what they're going to do and what they're going to get. And so we have to be at a little bit higher level from pay to benefits. But when that comes to recruiting, then I research LinkedIn, I post, I do all those things, and we have just been able to grab candidates. Almost every one of those, I think everyone has had a previous job. We've rarely got people coming off the street, a couple of college, recent graduates, but short of that, it's out cherry picking the best from your competitors.
It is.
That's great.
I mean, that's what we're finding too. If, you have a vision for your company, then, get out there, have those conversations and reach out to the talent, to the people that can, bring that value.
Our leadership team, 2 years ago, we sat down as a group and we wrote on the whiteboards, what does it look like to be, what do we envision for our company? Well, we want to be the number one furniture provider in the market. What does that look like? What does it feel like? And one of the things that it feels like or looks like that we had identified was people contact us and they want to work for us. And is this happening right now?
Yeah. And it felt,
Like people from our good competitors.
Yeah,
Like
and
good talent wants to
that
work
means
here.
something, because that's when your name, your brand, it's doing something, and all those efforts that it takes for that to happen. It's a lot. It takes a lot of time, and for me especially, Scott, like Indeed, reviews, we need reviews, it's not something you feel right away, but when you start to feel it, that value is, it means a lot to your
I will
organization.
say a couple things that have been really helpful to us is one, having a well-designed website. Because a lot of times when people are looking at your company, they don't know what else to judge you on but your website. And for a whole generation, Nicole's generation, the website is reality almost. Like what's online is more real than, like, they don't have any other way to judge. So I don't know how many times I've heard, oh, I looked up your website, I can see you guys are amazing. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I don't know if we're that amazing, but so that is one thing, is take a look at your website, make sure it's like updated and good. Number two is we have had to, now your company typically, unless you've got like a 500 employee company, probably you're not going to have gobs and gobs of reviews on Indeed. We have had to ask our employees to review us on Indeed, because usually the only time someone does a review is like when they leave. They don't just think, oh, I should review my company on Indeed. So we have had to make invitations, because people do check us out they go to LinkedIn, they go to our website.
Oh, they do, absolutely.
They go on Indeed.
I've been asked questions specifically about a review, and it's, and it's a good thing. All of your managers and your leaders should be actively
You should ask.
promoting your company and, giving and helping your company go to that level. So, it's great to ask, for those, because it's one of the many tools to gauge how people really do feel here too, because it is an anonymous way for them to get their feedback. So.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions on recruiting?
When you're talking about promoting your company, your employees, right? How does that look like, let's say, in social media? People posting about what you do here, how working here looks like. Do you guys do that a little bit too?
Yeah. So, first, we're all engaged with, the company's LinkedIn and Facebook, and it's important that we're all connected, so everybody is following us together. I know that you guys have a regular cadence of with every employee here. They'll do a write-up on every employee, and the commenting, the liking, the reposting, it all does matter. And it's also something that they love to do, because they're part of that, and they feel excited to be saying, hey, what am I doing here? What do my efforts mean? So what's that type of a cadence that you guys are doing for those type of posts? I see them weekly, or
Nicole heads up our social media. Nicole, what is our post strategy look like, or engagement strategy online look like?
So we have 3 different channels. Since we're a lot more visual, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and then we're on LinkedIn for building, that reaching the more C-suite people who are going to be engaging with our company and wanting to work with us. And so we're on there multiple times a week, at least 3 times a week. For each of those platforms, because we want to be in the feed as much as possible so people can see us. And we're doing a variety of things, whether it's projects that we're posting or it's highlighting an employee who's really awesome, or upcoming events. We really mix it up, and good content and frequently. That's kind of the rule for those platforms right now.
Yeah, so I think two to 3 times a week is unfortunately like what it takes.
Yeah.
And I post on my personal LinkedIn probably once a week. So I think that's my strategy. So we've got a company strategy, and then I've got my own where I've committed to doing a certain number of posts. I usually find that when I'm posting photos, and they're photos of me for some reason, or my daughter or something personal, then they typically have a lot more activity, or a personal story. I did a story about my first real office task chair, and it had hundreds of likes.
People want to know about you.
Story.
Yeah,
It
they
all
don't-
comes
I
down
had
to
a photo
story.
of me in my chair, and it was a little story, and that has a
When
large.
it has that personal connection.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
But then that story is built upon until you have a presence. So it's undisputed that we have a presence online. Nicole's posting 3 times a week. Their engagement, the president is posting. Our employees, we let our employees know, hey, we put something out. Will you like it when you get a chance? They don't always do it. I always think, shouldn't we have more? Shouldn't we have more people liking this? But we don't ask them that often. But that's a great question.
And before we switch over, I wanted you to share with the group a little bit about what you do, because it's recruiting at a different level, and how's that been going?
What our
As a
company
company,
does
yeah.
for recruiting.
Yeah.
And will you introduce yourself for the people that are here in the room and online?
Yeah, hi, I'm Natasha Bunton. I work with Apex Leaders, and I head up our sales and marketing function there. So we do advisory services for private equity clients. So in terms of, we're actually recruiting for an HR person right now. So I don't really want to speak for that process, but yeah, we use LinkedIn for sure. You're talking about recruiting candidates.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, or how you're recruiting company, or at both of those levels. Because you're going after, the company is wanting a certain level or a certain talent or niche, right? And
So our clients
Yes.
are looking for that.
yeah,
Yeah, so how we find advisors?
Yeah.
Is that kind
yeah,
of
well,
right?
how the advisors find those people that can offer.
Yeah, okay, so we'll have a client come to us and they'll say, they're looking for someone who is an expert in aerospace, for example. And so we'll find them like formers that were executives at NASA, or really just, they're usually former executives that have spent their life in that industry. And then we reach out to them and we facilitate, we're kind of like matchmakers.
It's
but
so
for professionals.
interesting, yeah.
So, or they'll be interested in, wind power in the Dakotas and want to speak to engineers or something like that. So we have souped up versions of LinkedIn that we utilize to do those custom searches. But really, I would say the secret sauce is kind of similar to what you do, Eva. It's the rapport that we're able to build with these advisors before we make that initial connection. And that's a key differentiator in our space. And I would say just listening to the passion that Eva has for what she does and how influential she can be in people's lives, it comes through in the conversation. And I think the authenticity that you bring and just what you're talking about, the LinkedIn post, there's just so much noise everywhere. It's, like in your emails, it's on LinkedIn, it's phone calls, it's just so much that you're getting barraged with on a daily basis, that when you have an interaction that's really authentic, people sense that, they know it, and they respond to that accordingly. So I would say there's some similarities to what you do in that we incorporate into our business model today.
That's one of the reasons that we have, when we do the interviews and we have and I tell people up front, I say, hey, you're going to have a bunch of interviews. And if we like you, then you'll meet more and more people. And one of the things that people like is they get to meet our rank and file. And sometimes we want to sometimes we're like, oh, well, we should only have them meet with like the top people here because we really want to put our best foot forward. But it's important to remember that we're going to be working with your rank and file. And so we oftentimes will have our rank and file accompany at lunch. And the people that we're recruiting, they see the authenticity. They know, they'll ask, do you like where you work? We're recruiting a salesperson right now. That was one of her questions is, do you like where you work? Do you like where you work? Do you guys like this company? Because and it allows them really to get like authentic information from employees that they wouldn't get necessarily from just the president, of course, or Eva. Of course, we're going to say good things about the company. So that authenticity is really, really important.
And one other thing that I do throughout this whole process, which is often, it's not short for us, I mean, it definitely takes some time, is I'm continually reaching out to them after every connection they are making and saying, what did you think? Tell me what you felt. Did you, just acting as that person where they can really share their true thoughts. And
they do
because they want somebody to talk things through with. And it's a great way to really see the full situation is, I'm acting, on their behalf as well. I am bringing somebody in, I'm working with them. I care about, about them as well. And so I think that's really important that they feel that, because it really helps, them open up and you find out a lot and, hey, is this really the home for you?